You've been trying to let go the wrong way, and that's why it keeps hurting. The more you force yourself to forget, the more tightly your heart holds on. Buddha discovered this thousands of years ago. You cannot release what you keep fighting. The mind doesn't let go through pressure, it lets go through understanding. And until you understand the truth behind your pain, it will keep returning, no matter how hard you try to push it away. Today, I'm going to show you the real way to free yourself, the way Buddha taught, not by forcing your heart to move on, but by transforming the part of you that is still holding on. 1. Stop running from your pain. Sit with it until it softens. We rush to escape what hurts us because we believe that if we move fast enough, the pain will eventually fall behind and disappear. We distract ourselves, we keep busy, we pretend we're fine, we tell ourselves to move on, but deep down we feel that heaviness still following us. We treat pain as if it is some dangerous animal waiting to attack us the moment we slow down. But pain is not a predator. Pain is a messenger carrying a truth we haven't been ready to face. Every emotion you avoid, every memory you push down, every feeling you deny, begins chasing you, not because it wants to break you, but because it wants to be understood. It keeps returning because it has something to tell you. In Buddhism, avoiding your emotions is like trying to outrun your own shadow. The more you run, the bigger and darker it grows. The more you fight it, the more it clings to you. This is why so many people feel exhausted. They are not tired from the pain itself. They are tired from constantly running from it. Healing begins the moment you stop sprinting and allow yourself to sit still long enough for your inner world to catch up with you. Sitting with your pain does not mean drowning in it. It means giving yourself permission to feel what you feel without judging it, without shaming yourself, and without rushing to fix it. Sit with your sadness the way you would sit with a friend who needs comfort. Sit with your confusion the way you would sit with a child who is scared and doesn't have the words. Sit with the part of you that is still holding on to someone or something you lost. Not to force it to disappear, but to finally listen to why it hurts so deeply in the first place. At first, sitting with your pain will feel uncomfortable because you are used to running. Your mind might resist. Your heart might feel tight. But if you stay with it gently, something small but powerful begins to change inside you. The emotion you feared, the one you kept pushing away, slowly starts to lose its sharp edges. It won't feel like a knife anymore. It becomes more like a gentle pressure, a reminder rather than a wound. The pain becomes softer, warmer, and surprisingly human. This is because emotions that are felt completely eventually relax. They dissolve when they are acknowledged. When you finally understand the message your pain has been trying to give you, whether it's a lesson, a boundary, a truth about your needs, or a realization about your past, the emotion naturally begins to lift. It leaves not because you forced it out, not because you ignored it, but because it was finally heard. Pain doesn't stay with you forever. It only stays as long as it takes to deliver its wisdom. And once the message is understood, the pain doesn't chase you anymore. It simply releases you, gently, quietly, and naturally, the way a shadow fades when the light finally changes. 2. Your heart can't be forced. It moves at the speed of truth. We often tell ourselves that we should be over it by now, as if healing is something we can schedule or command. We put pressure on our heart, the same way we pressure ourselves at work or in life. We set deadlines for our emotions. We say things like, "I shouldn't care anymore," "I should be stronger than this," or why am I still thinking about this? But healing does not follow the timeline you create in your mind. It follows the truth of what your soul has lived through, and truth cannot be rushed. Your heart does not move according to your impatience. It moves according to what it genuinely feels, what it still needs to understand, and what it still needs to release. When you try to force your heart to move faster, you only create more resistance inside yourself. It's like trying to pull a flower open with your hands. You destroy it by rushing what was meant to unfold slowly. Your heart needs space, not pressure. It needs compassion, not commands. It needs honesty, not emotional shortcuts. This is why forcing yourself to move on never works. The more you push yourself to forget, the more your heart clings to what hasn't been processed yet. You end up feeling stuck not because you are weak, but because you are trying to drag your heart somewhere it isn't ready to go. Emotional pain doesn't disappear because you demand it to. It leaves when it has been understood, and understanding takes time. When you stop forcing your heart and start listening to it, something important happens. You notice that your emotions are not obstacles, they are signals. They are telling you where you haven't healed yet, what still hurts, what still matters, and what parts of you need attention. Your heart is not betraying you by feeling deeply. It is guiding you toward the parts of your life where growth is trying to happen. Give yourself permission to feel without judging the timeline. Allow yourself to say, "I still care," without guilt. Allow yourself to admit, "I'm not ready to let go," without calling yourself weak. Healing is not about pretending to be strong. It is about being truthful with yourself. When you finally stop demanding speed from your heart, you create space for real transformation. You allow your emotions to move naturally instead of being pushed or suppressed. And slowly, almost quietly, your heart begins to shift. It begins to untangle itself. It begins to release the weight it once held tightly. Not because you forced it, but because you finally created the conditions for it to heal. Your heart knows exactly when it is ready to move forward. Trust that timeline. Trust that intelligence. Trust that inner wisdom. Because the heart never heals when forced. It only heals when it is finally allowed to move at the speed of truth. 3. Letting go doesn't happen in one moment, it happens in small realizations. Most people imagine letting go as some dramatic, life-changing moment where everything suddenly becomes clear, the pain disappears, and the heart feels light again. They expect a single breakthrough, a sudden shift, a flash of wisdom, a magical turning point. But in reality, letting go is rarely a single moment. It is a slow internal process, made of many tiny realizations that quietly reshape your heart over time. Healing is more like the sunrise than a switch. The world doesn't go from dark to bright instantly. It brightens slowly, softly, almost unnoticeably, until suddenly the entire landscape looks different. Letting go begins in the smallest moments you never think about. It happens the first time you wake up, and your mind doesn't immediately rush to the memory that once consumed you. It happens the first time you laugh again, and it feels real. It happens the first time you catch yourself dreaming about your future instead of replaying your past. It happens when the things that once triggered you start losing their power over your emotions. These small changes don't feel like progress at the time, but each one is a quiet step forward. The truth is that letting go is not about one big decision. It is about 1,000 tiny shifts in perception. It's when you stop checking something that once controlled your day. It's when you stop overthinking a conversation you had months ago. It's when you accept that some answers will never come, and you finally stop waiting for them. It's when you grow so much emotionally that the situation that once broke you no longer fits who you are becoming. Letting go is not an act, it is a gradual transformation. This is why forcing yourself to let go doesn't work. You cannot push the heart into clarity. You cannot snap yourself out of grief. You cannot tear yourself away from something your soul hasn't outgrown yet. Letting go is not a choice of strength, but a natural shift that happens when your inner world becomes ready. It happens when your heart finally understands the truth. Some things are not meant to stay, not because you didn't love enough, but because life needed you to grow beyond them. Letting go also happens when the pain finally teaches you what it came to teach. When the past stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like wisdom. When the lesson becomes more meaningful than the loss. This shift usually doesn't happen in a single moment. It accumulates through days, weeks, months of gradual awakening. Each new insight softens something inside you. Each moment of clarity takes away a little piece of the weight. You don't realize how much you are healing because it doesn't feel like healing. It feels like surviving, breathing, processing, living. Then, one day, without planning it, without forcing it, you notice that your heart feels different. You notice that the story no longer hurts the same way. You notice that you can look back without collapsing. You notice that you don't want to return to the past anymore, not because you hate it, but because you finally outgrew it. That is real letting go. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, like a gentle change in the wind. It doesn't make a grand announcement. It simply becomes true inside you. Letting go happens slowly, internally, softly, and then all at once, everything feels lighter. And this is the beauty of it. You don't force letting go. You grow into it. The moment you stop demanding it to happen instantly, you create the space for it to unfold naturally. Letting go is not a single moment of strength. It is a long journey of small realizations that slowly free your heart until one day, without even noticing when it happened, you finally feel free. 4. Acceptance is not giving up. It's stopping the internal fight. Most people misunderstand acceptance. They think accepting something means agreeing with what happened, approving of the pain, or acting like the past didn't matter. They think acceptance means weakness, as if accepting reality means you're letting life walk over you. But acceptance is the opposite of surrender. It is not collapsing. It is understanding. It is not giving up. It is letting go of the fight inside your own mind. When you refuse to accept something painful, you don't actually change the situation. You only prolong your suffering. You replay memories again and again, hoping the story will change. You argue with reality, even though reality doesn't bend. You hold on to the should have, could have, and what if, thinking they will give you peace. But all they do is keep your mind in a loop that exhausts you. The past remains the same, but your distress grows stronger. Non-acceptance is like trying to push a river backward. All it does is drain your energy and make you feel powerless. Acceptance means recognizing that what happened, happened. It means acknowledging that a chapter ended, even if you didn't want it to. It means understanding that some people will never apologize, some situations will never make perfect sense, and some endings will never feel fair. But acceptance isn't about liking any of that. It's about not letting your mind be in constant battle with what cannot be changed. Acceptance is choosing peace over resistance, clarity over confusion, and truth over illusion. When you finally begin to accept reality, something shifts inside you. The energy you used to spend fighting the truth becomes available for healing. You stop replaying the same argument in your head. You stop rewriting the same story. You stop waiting for closure from someone who never planned to give it. Acceptance doesn't erase the hurt, but it removes the chaos around it. It gives your heart space to breathe again. Acceptance also means understanding that life doesn't always follow your expectations. People leave, plans fail, relationships change, dreams collapse. But in Buddhism, the key truth is this: suffering is not caused by the event itself, but by your resistance to it. When you stop resisting, you stop suffering. Not because the event becomes less painful, but because you stop adding emotional weight to it. Acceptance is the moment you stop saying, "This should not have happened," and start saying, "This is what happened, and I can live through it." When you stop fighting reality, you can finally focus on what you can control: healing, growth, direction, and your next steps. You begin to see opportunities you couldn't see before. You start noticing strength you didn't know you had. You become more present, more grounded, more peaceful. Acceptance shifts you from being a victim of life to becoming a student of it. And something magical happens once you accept the truth. The emotional storm inside you starts to quiet down. The constant tension in your chest loosens. The thoughts that once haunted you begin to fade. You no longer feel the need to control everything, fix everything, or understand everything. Acceptance doesn't solve every problem, but it solves the inner war that was making everything worse. Acceptance is not giving up on life. It is giving up on the internal battle with what has already happened. It is the moment you choose inner peace over inner conflict. It is the moment you stop trying to change the past and begin shaping your future. And once that shift happens, letting go begins naturally, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped fighting the truth. 5. Healing is not forgetting, it's seeing with new eyes. Most people think healing means erasing the past, wiping every memory clean, and pretending the pain never existed. They believe that freedom comes from forgetting, from deleting names, from throwing away old reminders, or pushing memories into the darkest corners of their mind. But real healing is not about forgetting. Healing means remembering differently. It means seeing the same memory through wiser eyes, through a calmer heart, through a mind that has grown strong enough to stand in front of its own story without shaking. You do not heal by forcing yourself to forget what happened. Forgetting is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of avoidance. The truth is, your mind never truly forgets something that shaped you, the people you loved, the moments that broke you, the chapters that changed you. They stay with you because they carved something into your spirit. You cannot erase experiences that shaped your character, stretched your heart, or taught you painful but powerful lessons. The past doesn't disappear, but your relationship with it transforms. Healing happens when the memory loses its ability to control your mood, hijack your day, or throw you into emotional chaos. Healing is the moment the story stops hurting the way it used to. You remember it, but it no longer steals your peace. You recall the chapter, but it no longer feels like an open wound. The memory doesn't vanish, you simply stop bleeding from it. You stop being haunted by what happened because you have grown into someone who can finally hold the truth without falling apart. Healing is like walking through the same room that once felt dark and terrifying, only to notice that the lights are on now. Nothing in the room changed, only your ability to see changed. Your heart expands, your mind understands, your soul becomes deeper. The same past that once felt unbearable becomes a teacher instead of a burden. The story stays the same, but your interpretation evolves. Pain becomes wisdom, loss becomes clarity, mistakes become understanding. What broke you becomes what built you. And this shift never happens overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. It happens through moments where you learn to breathe again while thinking about something that once suffocated you. It happens through nights where you finally sleep peacefully without replaying the same scenes. It happens the first time you talk about the past and realize the tears don't come the way they used to. Healing is not forgetting, it is outgrowing. Healing also means recognizing that your past self did the best it could with the knowledge, strength, and awareness it had at the time. You stop blaming yourself for not knowing better. You stop attacking yourself for trusting the wrong people. You stop shaming yourself for holding on too long or letting go too late. Healing is understanding that you are evolving, not failing. You stop being cruel to yourself for decisions that your past level of awareness made. You become kinder to the version of you who struggled, who cared too much, who stayed too long, who was trying to survive. That compassion softens your heart and helps you release the emotional weight you carried. Eventually, the past becomes something you can look at without drowning in it. You no longer fear remembering. You no longer force forgetting. You simply allow the memory to exist without letting it define your present. This is the quiet power of healing. The past stops being a place you live in and becomes a place you learned from. You carry the lesson, not the pain. You carry the growth, not the guilt. You carry the wisdom, not the wound. Healing is not erasing the story, it's rewriting your relationship with it. You become someone who can look back without losing themselves. And that is the real victory. Not forgetting, but transforming. Not deleting the past, but rising above it. Not forcing yourself to let go, but naturally evolving into someone who no longer needs to hold on. Shesh. You don't move on, you move forward. People talk about moving on as if it's something simple, something you can achieve with enough willpower or enough motivational advice. They imagine moving on like closing a door, deleting a contact, blocking a memory, or convincing yourself that nothing mattered. But the truth is that human beings are not machines. You cannot delete chapters of your life like files on a computer. You cannot erase experiences that shaped you deeply. You cannot simply decide that something doesn't matter anymore when your soul was shaped inside that experience. This is why the phrase, "move on," feels so wrong, so heavy, so impossible, because the heart doesn't work that way, and it never will. Moving on implies that the past becomes irrelevant, meaningless, or forgotten. But real healing isn't about pretending that everything is behind you. Real healing is about moving forward, and the difference between the two is everything. Moving forward means building a life where the past is part of your story, but no longer the center of your world. Moving forward means honoring what happened without allowing it to imprison you. Moving forward means accepting that the past shaped you, but refusing to let it limit who you are becoming. You move forward when you start living for what's in front of you instead of clinging to what's behind you. It happens slowly, in subtle shifts you barely notice. It happens the moment you stop waiting for someone to return. It happens when you no longer replay the same conversation, hoping the ending will change. It happens when you stop giving energy to people who walked away. It happens when you stop trying to rewrite a story that ended. Moving forward means turning your attention back to your own life, your goals, your growth, your inner peace, your future. Moving forward is also about reclaiming all the energy you used to pour into the past. You take that energy and begin to pour it into yourself, into your dreams, into your habits, into your healing, into your next chapter. At first, it feels uncomfortable because your emotional muscles are used to carrying old memories, old expectations, old hopes. But the more you reclaim your energy, the lighter you become. Something that once felt impossible, imagining life without that person, that job, that chapter suddenly starts to feel natural. You realize that life doesn't end when something painful happens. Life reshapes itself around the person you are becoming. And here is the deeper truth. Moving forward begins the moment you accept that you cannot change the past. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot undo choices that were already made. You cannot make something work that was never meant to. The moment you accept this truth, not as defeat, but as clarity, your heart begins to open again. Not for someone new, not for a new chapter immediately, but for yourself. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to live differently, because acceptance releases the emotional weight that was keeping you stuck in place. Moving forward also means choosing not to anchor yourself to pain. Pain is part of life, but staying in pain is a choice. You don't move forward by pushing the pain away or ignoring it. You move forward by understanding why it hurt, by integrating the lesson, by allowing the experience to mature your soul rather than harden your heart. Moving forward is choosing to give your future a chance, even if your past disappointed you. It is choosing to trust yourself again, even if someone broke that trust. It is choosing to believe that life still has more to offer, even if one chapter closed too painfully. And one day, after enough small steps, enough quiet realizations, enough emotional shifts, you will notice something powerful. You stopped longing for what's gone. You stopped checking the past to see if it still hurts. You stopped waiting for someone else's approval or apology. You stopped needing explanations that will never come. You stopped reliving the same story. The attachment loosens not because you forced it, but because you grew beyond it. The version of you who was holding on finally transforms into a version who knows their worth, their strength, and their direction. That is moving forward. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not a single moment. It is a slow, quiet evolution inside you. You don't move on by forgetting the past. You move forward by becoming someone who is no longer controlled by it. And when that shift happens, when you realize you have outgrown what once broke you, you finally step into the next chapter of your life with a heart that is wiser, calmer, and more resilient than ever before. 7. You heal when you realize you are not broken, you are transforming. So many people stay stuck in their pain not because the wound is still open, but because they believe the wound means something is wrong with them. They tell themselves that they are weak for still caring. They call themselves foolish for trusting. They believe they are behind in life because they haven't healed fast enough. They convince themselves that hurting this deeply must mean they're broken. But this is the biggest misunderstanding. Pain is not a sign of weakness. Pain is a sign that something meaningful happened. Pain is a sign that you felt deeply, loved deeply, cared deeply, hoped deeply. You are not broken because you are hurting. You are hurting because you are human, and you are healing even when you don't realize it. Healing doesn't begin when the pain disappears. Healing begins the moment you understand that feeling pain does not mean you are damaged. It means you are growing. It means something inside you is rearranging itself. It means your mind and heart are trying to figure out a new way to exist in the world. Every uncomfortable emotion you experience, grief, sadness, anger, confusion, is not a flaw in your design. It is the natural process of transformation. The version of you that existed before the pain cannot survive after it. Something has shifted inside you, and your soul is learning to carry life differently. You heal when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as a student of it. Every experience, good or bad, is sculpting you. The happiness you once had shaped your joy. The heartbreak shaped your strength. The disappointments shaped your clarity. The failures shaped your resilience. Nothing in your life was meaningless. Nothing you went through was wasted. Every chapter prepared you for the next one. Even the painful chapter that you didn't ask for. Even the loss you didn't expect. Even the betrayal that broke something inside you, but also opened a new kind of awareness within you. Transformation doesn't look beautiful while it's happening. A seed cracking open looks like destruction, but it is growth. A caterpillar dissolving inside a cocoon looks like death, but it is rebirth. This is what's happening inside you. You are dissolving from one version of yourself into a higher version. The old beliefs, the old attachments, the old expectations, they are breaking apart because they cannot survive in the person you are becoming. But when you don't understand this, the process feels like something inside you is collapsing. It feels like you are losing pieces of yourself. In reality, you are shedding pieces that were never meant to stay. You heal when you stop blaming yourself for what you didn't know. So much suffering comes from self-judgment. You tell yourself, I should have seen the signs. I should have walked away earlier. I should have loved differently. I should have been stronger. But these shoulds are illusions. You were operating with the emotional toolbox you had at that moment. You were making choices with the understanding you had at that time. You were doing your best with the awareness you possessed then. Healing begins when you stop punishing yourself for the person you used to be. When you look back with compassion instead of criticism. When you talk to your past self gently instead of violently. That younger version of you was not weak, they were learning. That version of you was not broken, they were simply growing up through pain. You heal when you understand that your emotions are not your enemy. Your sadness is not sabotaging you. Your anger is not destroying you. Your grief is not holding you back. These emotions are not here to harm you, they are here to guide you. Sadness shows you where love once lived. Anger shows you where boundaries were crossed. Grief shows you what mattered deeply. Confusion shows you where growth is happening. Emotions are your inner compass. They point you toward the things inside you that need your attention. They point you toward the parts of you that need nurturing. They point you toward the wounds that need care. When you stop fighting your own emotions, you stop fighting your healing. You heal when you stop comparing your journey with someone else's. No two hearts break the same way. No two souls learn the same lessons. What takes someone 3 weeks might take you 3 months. What hurts someone lightly might wound you deeply. Your healing timeline is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of your depth. The deeper you feel, the longer it takes to process. The more meaning you attach to something, the more time you need to release it. But none of this means you are failing. It means you are transforming. It means your heart is recalibrating itself. Healing is not linear, and it never will be. You heal when you stop trying to go back to who you used to be. After something painful happens, people often say, "I just want to feel like myself again." But the truth is, you are not supposed to go back. That version of you no longer exists. You don't heal by returning to the old identity. You heal by becoming a new one, a wiser one, a stronger one, a calmer one, a more awake one. Healing is not restoration, it is evolution. You are being shaped into someone who understands life more deeply, someone who listens to themselves more carefully, someone who knows their worth more clearly, someone who is not easily shaken by the same things anymore. You heal when you start accepting the idea that your pain has purpose, not in a shallow motivational way, but in a deeply spiritual one. Pain stretches your awareness. It forces you to slow down. It breaks your illusions. It reveals your inner truths. It teaches you what matters. It helps you see what you could not see before. It brings you closer to yourself. Pain is not the enemy, it is the invitation to evolve, the invitation to shed the ego, the invitation to rise. You heal when you stop thinking something is wrong with you and start realizing something powerful is happening inside you. You are not broken, you are being rebuilt. You are not failing, you are reinventing. You are not weak, you are expanding. You are not lost, you are being guided toward a new version of yourself. Healing is messy, slow, quiet, and deeply internal. From the outside, nothing looks different. But inside, everything is shifting, rearranging, and preparing you for the next chapter of your life. And one day, after enough tears, enough silent nights, enough realizations, enough growth, you wake up and notice that something feels different. The weight isn't as heavy. The memory isn't as sharp. The longing isn't as painful. The fear isn't as loud. The past doesn't feel like a cage anymore. It feels like a lesson you survived. You stand up, breathe deeply, and feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Strength. A strength that came from the pain. A strength shaped by endurance. A strength you earned. That is the moment you realize something profound. Healing didn't happen because you forced yourself to move on. Healing happened because you stopped believing you were broken. Healing happened because you allowed yourself to transform instead of trying to stay the same. You didn't move on. You rose. You evolved. You became someone new. And that is the real meaning of healing. 8. Your soul already knows the way. You just need to stop interrupting it. One of the greatest misunderstandings in healing is believing that you must figure everything out with your logical mind. You believe you must analyze the situation, force a new perspective, convince yourself to let go, make yourself move on, and consciously control every step of the process. But the truth is, the mind is not the master of healing. The soul is. Your deeper self, the part of you beyond language, beyond thought, beyond logic, already knows the direction your life needs to go. Your soul knows when a chapter has ended. It knows when a lesson is complete. It knows when someone's role in your life is finished. It knows when staying is harming you or when holding on is draining you, and it knows exactly how to guide you into your next version. Healing becomes painful only when the mind refuses to follow the soul. We confuse healing with thinking harder. We believe that if we replay the past enough times, we will suddenly get clarity. If we obsess enough, the pain will dissolve. If we force ourselves to find a meaning, the suffering will stop. But the mind creates loops, not freedom. The mind repeats stories to protect you, even when those stories suffocate you. Healing doesn't come from thinking endlessly. Healing comes from allowing your feelings to exist, allowing life to unfold without constant interference, allowing your soul to lead you where your fear refuses to go. The soul speaks softly, and most people never hear it because their mind is too loud. The soul says, "This hurts because it's ending," while the mind says, "Fix it." The soul says, "Let go," while the mind says, "Hold on a little longer." The soul says, "You've outgrown this," while the mind says, "But this is familiar." The soul says, "Move forward," while the mind says, "What if I fail?" And because the mind's voice is louder, you begin to believe that healing means obeying fear. But real healing means learning to trust the quiet truth inside you, even when your mind is screaming to do the opposite. Your soul has a timing for your life that is different from the timing of your desires. It will keep you in a chapter only until you have learned everything you need from it, not a second longer. When the lesson is complete, the soul gently pulls you forward. But the mind panics and holds on to what is familiar, even if the familiar is hurting you. This is why so many people stay in relationships long after the love is gone. This is why they cling to people who have already emotionally left them. This is why they stay attached to memories that keep them in pain. The soul is whispering that the story is over, but the mind interrupts with fear, forcing you to stay stuck in a place that can no longer support your growth. Healing begins when you finally stop interrupting your soul, when you stop trying to control what is meant to naturally shift, when you stop forcing yourself to understand everything before letting life guide you, when you stop holding yourself hostage to fear and start allowing truth to move through you. The soul doesn't rush, the soul doesn't panic, the soul doesn't cling. It works with the rhythm of nature, slow, patient, wise. Like water carving stone, like dawn slowly turning into daylight, like seasons changing without noise. Your soul is always trying to lead you to peace, but your mind is often trying to lead you to comfort. Peace and comfort are not the same. Comfort is familiar but stagnant. Peace is unfamiliar but freeing. Comfort keeps you in what you know, even if it is slowly draining your spirit. Peace pulls you into what you need, even if it scares you at first. Healing requires choosing peace over comfort, choosing growth over familiarity, choosing truth over fear. And this is where most people struggle. They want healing, but they also want to hold on to the exact things that prevent healing. They want clarity, but refuse uncomfortable truth. They want peace, but cling to what disturbs their heart. They want transformation, but resist everything that triggers transformation. They want to move forward, but keep walking backward emotionally. Healing doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be honest. Honest about what hurts. Honest about what isn't working. Honest about who isn't meant for your future. Honest about what your soul has already accepted, but your mind still fights. When you finally stop interrupting your soul, you begin to notice something you couldn't see before. You start to see how certain connections faded, not because you failed, but because your growth outpaced the relationship. You start to see how loss was not punishment, but protection. You start to see how certain doors close to redirect you towards something you would not have chosen alone. You start to understand that life is not happening against you, it is happening for you. Every ending is a rearrangement. Every heartbreak is a shift in direction. Every disappointment is an initiation into a deeper version of yourself. Your soul heals you by slowly changing your relationship with the past, not by erasing it, but by showing you why it happened. It softens your grief. It reshapes your memories. It brings clarity in waves. It gives understanding in quiet moments, a random afternoon, a late-night thought, a peaceful silence, an unexpected realization. One day you wake up and the pain is not as sharp. Another day you wake up and your heart feels lighter. Another day you wake up and suddenly understand the lesson that was hidden inside your suffering. Healing happens slowly, then suddenly, and always in alignment with your soul's timing. There will be moments where you feel like you're going backward, moments where emotions you thought you healed show up again, moments where the wound feels fresh, even after months of progress. This does not mean you are failing. This means your soul is revealing deeper layers. Healing is not a straight line, it is a spiral. You revisit old wounds from higher levels of awareness. You feel the pain again, but you respond differently. You understand differently. You forgive differently. You release differently. You evolve every time the wound returns, because every return brings a new level of insight. This is the soul refining you. Your soul knows exactly when you are ready to step into a new version of yourself. But the transition is often painful because the old version has to dissolve. Every rebirth requires a small death, the death of old beliefs, old attachments, old identities, old expectations. You are not losing yourself, you are shedding yourself. The painful parts of healing are the growing pains of becoming someone wiser, steadier, clearer, and more aligned with who you were always meant to be. And one day, after countless silent struggles, emotional storms, inner conversations, and quiet breakthroughs, you will realize something profound. The past no longer pulls you. Not because you forced yourself to let go, but because you became someone who no longer needs to hold on. The memory is still there, but the attachment is not. The story is still there, but the emotional chokehold is gone. You feel gratitude where you once felt grief. You feel clarity where you once felt confusion. You feel peace where you once felt chaos. You finally feel the quiet truth your soul was whispering all along. You were never broken, you were becoming. And that is the real essence of healing. You do not heal by force. You heal by alignment, by listening, by surrendering, by trusting the deeper intelligence inside you, your soul. 9. What you're holding on to is not the person, it's the story you built around them. One of the hardest truths to accept is that most of what you hold on to is not the person itself, but the meaning you attached to them. You don't always miss the person as they were, you miss who you thought they were supposed to be. You miss the future you imagined with them. You miss the version of yourself that existed when they were part of your life. You miss the dreams, the plans, the promises, the comfort, the familiarity, and the emotional world your mind created around them. In reality, your attachment is often deeper than the person. It is woven into the stories, hopes, and identities that grew around the relationship. And this is why letting go feels impossible. You're not just losing someone, you're losing the story your heart lived inside. The mind doesn't attach to people, it attaches to meaning. When someone enters your life at a vulnerable moment, your mind links them to safety. When someone makes you feel seen, your mind links them to identity. When someone gives you affection, your mind links them to worth. When someone gives you attention, your mind links them to significance. This is why, when the relationship ends, your entire world feels like it collapses, not because the person left, but because the meanings tied to them collapse with them. You feel like you lost a future, a version of yourself, a dream you were building, a direction you were following. This is why heartbreak is not just emotional pain. It is the collapse of a psychological structure. Understanding this truth is uncomfortable but liberating. You are not holding on to the person, you are holding on to the story. The mind cannot let go of something it doesn't understand, so it keeps replaying, analyzing, and imagining alternate versions. You replay conversations trying to fix the story. You analyze memories trying to rewrite the story. You hold on to hope trying to continue the story. You fantasize about reconciliation because your mind wants the story to end neatly. This is not love, this is psychological attachment trying to protect itself from collapse. The mind fears losing the story because it fears losing identity. The person became part of how you saw yourself. I was happier when they were here. I felt loved when they cared. I felt chosen when they stayed. I felt important because they needed me. These beliefs become part of your inner narrative, so when they leave, it feels like a part of you leaves with them. But the truth is, your identity was never supposed to be built on another person. You were simply in a chapter where you forgot to separate their presence from your worth. Letting go becomes possible not when you force yourself to forget the person, but when you dissolve the story your mind created around them. And this requires deep honesty. You must acknowledge what you were actually attached to. Was it the comfort of having someone? Was it the idea of not being alone? Was it the validation they provided? Was it the fantasy of a future that never existed? Was it the emotional escape they offered from your internal struggles? Most of the time, the pain is not about the loss of a person, but the loss of what they represented. Your heart cannot move forward until you see the difference between the person and the role they played in your life. The person may have left, but the role, the meaning, the emotional significance often remains glued inside you. Healing means separating the two gently. It means understanding that the emotional world you built around them was created by you, not them. It means realizing that the love you felt was also your own creation. It was your heart expressing its capacity, not something they manufactured. This realization is liberating because it returns your power back to you. You created the love. You created the meaning. You created the tenderness. And what you create once, you can create again. You heal when you begin seeing the person not as the character in your story, but as a human being with their own journey, flaws, wounds, and limitations. This breaks the illusion. Not every person who touches your life is meant to fulfill the role you mentally assigned them. Some people are meant to be temporary lessons, not permanent characters. Some are meant to break you open, not build you up. Some are meant to trigger your transformation, not comfort your fears. Some are meant to guide you toward yourself, not toward them. When you accept this, the attachment begins to soften. the story begins to dissolve. Another reason you hold on is because you believe the story should have ended differently. You replay the past, imagining better outcomes. You think if you had behaved differently, maybe they would have stayed. You think if they had tried harder, maybe the ending would have changed. But this is an illusion, a psychological rewrite your mind creates to avoid accepting the truth. The story ended exactly the way it needed to for your growth. Not because you failed, not because they failed, but because life needed to redirect you. The chapter ended because you reached the emotional limit of what that story was meant to teach you. When you finally accept that the story is complete, healing begins to bloom inside you. You stop replaying what cannot be changed. You stop negotiating with fantasies. You stop wishing to return to a version of life that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. You stop trying to fix a story that was never meant to continue. You stop trying to rewrite a past that cannot be undone. Instead, you begin rewriting your identity. You begin reconstructing meaning from a place of self-respect rather than attachment. You begin realizing that the love, the warmth, the dreams, they came from within you, not from them. And what comes from you cannot be taken from you. Letting go also becomes easier when you understand that not everything you lose is meant to be replaced. Some things are meant to be understood. A heartbreak teaches you where your boundaries were too soft. A betrayal teaches you where your intuition whispered, but you ignored it. A disappointment teaches you where you gave too much of yourself. A separation teaches you where you were relying on someone for things you needed to give yourself. Pain becomes wisdom when you stop viewing it as punishment and start viewing it as guidance. Nothing broke you, everything revealed you. The emotional storm eventually calms when the story inside you changes. The moment you stop thinking, "I lost something," and start thinking, "I learned something," the pain begins to lose its grip. The moment you stop thinking, "They completed me," and start thinking, "I discovered myself through them," your power returns. The moment you stop clinging to their memory and start embracing your growth, the attachment begins to melt. The moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" the suffering becomes transformation. And then, slowly, quietly, something shifts inside you. You start waking up with a lighter heart. You start remembering the past without the same emotional weight. You start seeing that the person you were holding on to was not the one who left it, was the version of yourself who didn't yet know their worth. You start realizing that you don't actually want them back. You want back the feeling you had when you didn't doubt your value. You want back the version of yourself who felt chosen, loved, seen. But here is the truth. That version of you wasn't created by them. It came from within you. You can rebuild it without them. One day, you will look back and realize that letting go didn't happen because you forced yourself to stop caring. It happened because you finally saw the story for what it really was, a chapter, not a destination, a lesson, not a life sentence, a turning point, not an ending. When you understand the meaning, the emotion softens. When you reclaim yourself, the past releases you. You were never holding on to the person. You were holding on to the story. And the moment you outgrow the story, you set yourself free. 10. Life heals you. The moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. One of the greatest causes of suffering in human life is the belief that everything must go according to your expectations. You carry this silent pressure inside you, the pressure to fix everything, hold everything together, keep relationships alive, force outcomes, manage people's feelings, prevent loss, and make life unfold exactly the way you pictured it in your mind. You think if you try hard enough, if you hold on tightly enough, if you control the situation with enough intensity, nothing will fall apart. But the truth is, the more you try to control life, the more life slips out of your hands. Control is not stability. Control is the illusion of safety. And illusions always break. You suffer not because life is against you, but because you fight the natural flow of life. You try to make people stay when their chapter in your story is already complete. You try to force clarity from situations that are meant to stay unanswered for now. You try to pull yourself into a future that your soul isn't ready for. You try to prevent endings that were written into your destiny long before you realized it. And when life doesn't bend to your expectations, you feel hurt, lost, betrayed by fate. But the truth is, life was never meant to obey the scripts in your mind. Control is the mind's desperate attempt to feel safe in a world that constantly changes. But the soul knows something deeper. Life is not meant to be controlled. Life is meant to be understood. Life is meant to be flowed with. Life is meant to be surrendered to. The soul knows that everything has timing, everything has reason, everything has rhythm, everything has order, even the chaos. Your soul already knows that what is meant for you cannot be taken away, and what is not meant for you cannot be forced to stay. The mind fears this truth, but the soul breathes in this truth. This is why healing begins the moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. Your attempts to control life are often rooted in fear, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty, fear of being alone, fear of change. But fear clouds your perception. It makes you believe that holding on tightly is the only way to protect yourself. It makes you chase people who have already walked out. It makes you cling to relationships long after the love has died. It makes you rewrite the past in your mind to avoid facing the truth in front of you. But no amount of control prevents life from unfolding exactly as it's meant to. What is not aligned with your soul will eventually fall away, no matter how tightly you hold it. You begin to heal when you realize that life is wiser than your plans. Sometimes the things you desperately try to keep are the very things preventing you from becoming who you are meant to be. Sometimes the things you chase are the things that would have broken you. Sometimes the people you beg to stay are the people who cannot walk with you into the next chapter. Sometimes the doors you keep knocking on are the doors life is protecting you from entering. What feels like loss is often protection. What feels like rejection is often redirection. What feels like chaos is often reorganization. When you stop forcing outcomes, you allow life to bring you what is actually meant for you. When you stop clinging to what is leaving, you make space for what is coming. When you stop trying to control every detail, you learn to trust the intelligence of life. Healing becomes easier when you understand that control is not safety. Trust is safety. Faith is safety. Acceptance is safety. Letting life flow is safety. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the highest form of wisdom. It means recognizing that you cannot navigate life from your fears, you must navigate from awareness. It means realizing that your job is not to force life, but to participate in its unfolding with presence and clarity. It means accepting that your path is unique and cannot be compared to anyone else's. It means trusting that what leaves is not meant to stay, and what stays is not meant to leave. It means understanding that life does not take anything without giving something in return, but the return always comes after the lesson. You heal when you begin to separate what is your responsibility from what is not. Your responsibility is your thoughts, your choices, your boundaries, your actions, your growth. Your responsibility is your emotional maturity, your healing, and your inner peace. Your responsibility is how you respond, not how others behave. But you are not responsible for other people's decisions. You are not responsible for fixing someone who doesn't want to be fixed. You are not responsible for forcing someone to love you, respect you, or care the way you care. You are not responsible for outcomes that are beyond your influence. When you let go of what isn't yours, you reclaim power over what is. Letting go of control also means trusting that timing is not your enemy. The mind rushes. The soul knows when you are ready. Life delays certain things not because you are unworthy, but because your spirit is still preparing. You want answers instantly, but wisdom grows slowly. You want healing immediately, but healing requires integration. You want closure from someone, but closure often comes from within. Life gives you what you want only when you have become the person who can hold it without breaking. Trusting timing is a form of spiritual maturity. You also heal by embracing uncertainty instead of fighting it. Control is rooted in the fear of the unknown, but the unknown is the birthplace of every transformation you will ever experience. When you were born, you entered the unknown. When you discovered love, you stepped into the unknown. When you grew beyond an old version of yourself, you entered the unknown again. Every good thing that has ever happened to you came from uncertainty, not control. The more you stop trying to predict life, the more life surprises you with blessings you never imagined. And here is the deeper, most important truth. Life is always healing you, even when you don't realize it. The setbacks, the heartbreaks, the delays, the endings, they are all part of a larger design that your mind cannot see from where you stand. Every time something doesn't work out, life is quietly removing what could harm you. Every time someone leaves, life is making space for someone aligned with your future. Every time a plan collapses, life is steering you toward a better path. You are being guided even when it feels like you are breaking. You are being protected even when it feels like you are losing. You are being redirected even when you feel stuck. The intelligence behind your life is far greater than the logic inside your mind. When you embrace this truth, you stop fighting life. You stop resisting what is happening. You stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to bend the world into your expectations. Instead, you begin to listen. You begin to observe. You begin to understand. You begin to surrender. You begin to trust. Your shoulders drop. Your breath softens. Your heart relaxes. The storm inside you quiets. You finally realize that peace was never about having control. It was about letting go of the need for control. And one day, without forcing anything, you will look at your life and realize how far you've come simply by releasing what was never yours to control. You will see how the right people entered when you stopped chasing the wrong ones. You will see how the right opportunities arrived when you stopped clinging to closed doors. You will see how your heart healed faster when you stopped trying to manage every detail of the process. You will see how life unfolded in ways you never imagined once you stopped interrupting its wisdom. You heal the moment you stop trying to control everything. You transform the moment you let life flow. You grow the moment you trust yourself enough to surrender. And you find peace the moment you understand that the universe has never once failed to bring you exactly what you needed. Only your fear ever doubted it. 11. The peace you're searching for arrives the moment you stop fighting your own inner truth. So much of your suffering doesn't come from what people did to you, or what you lost, or what ended, or what changed. It comes from the internal war you have been fighting with yourself. You don't realize how much pain is created not by life, but by your resistance to life. You resist your feelings because they overwhelm you. You resist your memories because they scare you. You resist your intuition because it pushes you toward uncomfortable change. You resist the truth because it doesn't match the story you want to believe. You resist endings because they threaten your identity. You resist letting go because it feels like losing a part of yourself. Most of the suffering you carry is not rooted in the event, it is rooted in your inner conflict. Inner peace doesn't come from trying to erase the past, force the future, or silence your emotions. It comes from ending the war inside you. It comes from allowing the truth to rise without suppressing it. It comes from listening to your inner voice instead of burying it under distractions, denial, or shame. Inner peace comes the moment you stop fighting yourself. Every time something painful happens, your mind and heart split into two versions of you. The version that feels the truth and the version that refuses to accept the truth. The heart whispers, "This is over," while the mind insists, "Hold on." The intuition says, "This connection is no longer aligned," while the ego says, "Try harder." The soul says, "You've outgrown this," while the fear says, "You'll be lost without it." This inner conflict is the root of emotional exhaustion. You are torn between who you are becoming and who you are afraid to stop being. You think you are tired from heartbreak, tired from loss, tired from life. But what truly exhausts you is constantly pulling yourself in opposite directions. You try to love and detach at the same time. You try to heal and hold on at the same time. You try to grow and stay the same at the same time. You try to move forward but anchor yourself to the past. Every internal contradiction drains your life force. Peace begins when you stop tearing yourself in half. You cannot lie to yourself and expect peace. You cannot silence your intuition and expect clarity. You cannot deny what your heart knows and expect healing. Every time you ignore your inner truth, you create another layer of suffering. All the emotional confusion you feel is simply the result of living out of alignment with the truth inside you. Your inner truth is not loud. It does not scream. It does not demand. It does not fight for your attention. It speaks softly through discomfort, through intuition, through emotional patterns, through the heaviness in your chest, through the tightness in your breath, through the ache that refuses to disappear. When something isn't aligned, your soul does not stay silent. It sends signals. Pain is one of those signals. Anxiety is another. Emotional heaviness is the loudest one. These feelings are not punishment, they are internal guidance. The longer you resist your truth, the louder these signals become. When you refuse to leave something that your soul is done with, the suffering increases. When you try to resurrect a connection that life ended, the pain intensifies. When you try to force a future that doesn't belong to you, the road becomes harder. Life keeps trying to redirect you, but the mind keeps trying to control the direction. The conflict between life's pull and your resistance creates emotional storms. Peace begins when you surrender to your inner truth. This does not mean giving up. This does not mean accepting defeat. This does not mean lowering your standards or stepping back from your desires. Surrender means listening to the wisdom within you. Surrender means trusting that your deepest feelings are telling you something important. Surrender means having the courage to let truth guide you, even when your fears beg you to run. When you stop resisting, you allow your heart to breathe again. You stop wasting energy arguing with yourself. You stop fighting to maintain illusions. You stop trying to force love where love has already faded. You stop trying to justify people who hurt you. You stop trying to convince yourself that something still feels right when it hasn't felt right in months or even years. The moment you choose to stop fighting what you already know deep down, peace enters quietly. Peace doesn't rush. Peace doesn't push. Peace fills the spaces where resistance once lived. Inner truth also means acknowledging your wounds instead of pretending they don't exist. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. You cannot overcome what you refuse to confront. You cannot grow past a lesson you refuse to learn. So many people stay stuck because they bury their pain under distraction, endless scrolling, constant noise, busyness, entertainment, other people, anything to avoid stillness. But the pain doesn't disappear. It waits. It waits for you to stop running. It waits for you to sit with it. It waits for you to acknowledge it. That acknowledgement, raw, honest, gentle, is where healing begins. Your inner truth is also your intuition, the quiet internal compass that always knows the next step, even when your mind is confused. Intuition is not dramatic. It is subtle. It speaks through sensations, not logic. It tells you when someone's presence drains your energy. It tells you when someone's words don't match their actions. It tells you when you're clinging to something that no longer fits your growth. It tells you when a situation is wrong, long before your mind figures it out. You must stop dismissing your inner wisdom by calling it overthinking. Overthinking is loud and anxious. Intuition is calm and persistent. Peace begins when you trust the difference. One of the most powerful forms of inner truth is self-recognition, seeing who you really are instead of who pain turned you into. When people hurt you, you mistakenly believe that hurt defines you. When someone rejects you, you internalize the rejection. When someone betrays you, you question your worth. When someone leaves, you blame yourself. But none of these wounds change your essence. You are not unlovable because someone failed to love you. You are not unworthy because someone could not see your worth. You are not broken because someone treated you carelessly. You are simply human, and your heart is learning, and your spirit is evolving. Pain is not identity, it is awakening. Inner peace requires returning to your true self, not the wounded self. Who you truly are is always beneath the layers of pain, fear, and self-doubt. When you reconnect with your essence, your gentleness, your strength, your compassion, your clarity, your entire emotional world realigns. But you cannot reconnect with yourself until you stop fighting the truth that calls you back home. Inner peace also comes from releasing expectations of yourself, of others, of life. Expectations create pressure, disappointment, and emotional imbalance. You expect people to love the way you do, You expect life to reward your effort immediately. You expect healing to be fast and linear. You expect closure from people who don't even understand their own behavior. Expectations hurt because they demand that reality fit your preferences instead of your truth. When you let go of expectations, you create space for acceptance, and acceptance creates space for peace. Another dimension of inner truth is understanding your emotional patterns. Pain repeats itself until you learn the lesson it brings. If you keep attracting similar people, similar wounds, similar situations, it is because the lesson inside those patterns is still waiting for you. The pattern is not your enemy. It is your teacher. When you stop resisting the lesson and begin embracing it, the pattern dissolves. Inner peace comes not from avoiding pain, but from learning what it came to teach. And one day, after enough honesty, enough surrender, enough letting go of resistance, you wake up feeling different. The heaviness that sat in your chest for so long begins to loosen. The sadness that felt permanent becomes softer. The thoughts that once spun endlessly begin to slow down. You begin to see life with new eyes. You begin to feel emotions without drowning in them. You begin to trust your inner voice more than the noise around you. You begin to understand that the truth you once feared was actually the doorway to your freedom. You stop blaming life for hurting you. You stop blaming yourself for not healing fast enough. You stop seeing yourself as broken or behind. You stop fighting the flow of your existence. You finally begin to live with yourself instead of against yourself. And that is the moment true peace arrives quietly, naturally, without force, because peace was never something outside of you. Peace was always the part of you waiting beneath the resistance. Peace begins not when life becomes perfect, but when you stop fighting your own inner truth. Peace begins when the battle inside you ends. Peace begins when you come home to yourself. And once you come home, truly home, nothing in this world can shake you the way it once did. 12. You become free the moment you stop needing closure from the same place that hurt you. One of the deepest reasons people stay stuck in pain is the belief that healing is impossible without closure. You think you need one more conversation, one more explanation, one more apology, one more moment of clarity, one more chance to understand why things happened the way they did. You believe that if the other person could just tell you the truth, give you a reason, or finally acknowledge your pain, then your heart would release everything and you would feel free. But closure does not come from other people. It never did. It never will. You do not need closure from someone who wasn't able to give you honesty while they were in your life. You do not need understanding from someone who never understood themselves. You do not need the truth from someone who spent your entire connection hiding from their own truth. You do not need healing words from the same person who created the wound. Closure is not something they give you. Closure is something you create within yourself the moment you stop outsourcing your peace. The mind believes it needs answers. It wants to organize the pain into something clean, logical, complete. It wants explanations like puzzle pieces, hoping that if every piece is placed correctly, the ache will disappear. But the heart does not work like that. The heart does not need the perfect explanation to heal. The heart heals when it finally accepts that the explanation may never come. The mind says, I need to understand. The heart says, I need to let go. The tension between those two voices is what keeps you stuck in emotional limbo. Closure doesn't come from hearing the truth. It comes from accepting the truth you already know, but were afraid to admit. And the truth is always simpler than you think. If they wanted to stay, they would have stayed. If they wanted to fix things, they would have fixed them. If they valued the connection, they would have protected it. If they cared enough to give you clarity, they would have done it without you asking. Silence is also a message. Distance is also a message. Inconsistency is also a message. The absence of closure is the closure. But this truth is painful because it shifts the responsibility back to you. When you stop waiting for closure from someone else, you must finally confront your own emotions, your grief, your disappointment, your longing, your unmet needs, your broken expectations. And that level of honesty is uncomfortable. This is why people cling to the idea of closure. It feels easier to wait for someone else to fix the emotional chaos inside you than to admit that the healing must come from within. But the waiting keeps you trapped. The waiting keeps you attached. The waiting keeps you tied to a story that no longer has a future. You become free the moment you stop asking for explanations that won't change anything, because even if they told you everything, the outcome would still be the same. The ending would still be the ending. The past would still be the past. Closure does not rewrite history, it only reorganizes your feelings. And you do not need the person who hurt you to reorganize your emotions for you. In fact, waiting for them to do so is what keeps the wound open. Closure begins when you stop romanticizing the version of them you created in your mind. You stop imagining that they were someone different. You stop believing that they would have treated you better if only you had done something differently. You stop rewriting the past in a way that makes their behavior tolerable. You stop making excuses for why they couldn't love you the way you deserved to be loved. Closure begins the moment you stop lying to yourself about who they were. The truth is that people show you exactly who they are through their actions. You simply weren't ready to see it because your heart was still holding on to the potential, the fantasy, the hope. The closure you are craving isn't about understanding them. It's about understanding yourself. It's about understanding why you accepted less than you deserved, why you stayed longer than your soul wanted you to stay, why you kept trying to fix what was breaking you, why you kept giving love to someone who could not receive it. Closure is not about the connection. Closure is about the self-awareness that comes after the connection collapses. You also become free when you stop seeking closure from the past and start creating meaning in the present. The past is a story painful, yes, but finished. The present is a new chapter, raw, but filled with potential. You cannot heal by staring at a closed door. You cannot awaken by reliving the same moment. You cannot grow by trying to solve a story that already reached its end. You heal by choosing to move forward even when the past whispers your name. You heal by choosing yourself even when your memories pull you backward. You heal by reclaiming all the energy you invested in things that did not grow you and reinvesting that energy into your own evolution. Closure is internal. Closure is emotional maturity. Closure is accepting that you may never know why certain things happened and still deciding to live your life with an open heart. Closure is understanding that unanswered questions do not define your worth. Closure is letting the truth be enough, even when it hurts. Closure is choosing to release the emotional weight because you are tired of carrying what was never yours. Closure is saying, I don't need them to fix the pain they caused. I can fix it myself. One of the most painful truths in life is that not every story gets a beautiful ending. Not every person will return to apologize. Not every heart will explain why it left. Not every betrayal comes with a confession. Some people will hurt you and never look back. Some people will walk away without giving you a chance to speak. Some people will pretend nothing happened. Some people will rewrite the story to protect their ego. Some people will act like you never mattered, not because you didn't matter, but because facing their own behavior threatens the identity they cling to. When you understand this, you stop waiting for emotional accountability from someone who doesn't even offer accountability to themselves. You begin to see that closure is not a door they open for you, it's a door you close from the inside. And then something changes. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, the longing becomes softer, the confusion becomes clearer, the pain becomes livable, the story loses its power, the memories stop controlling your emotions, the future begins to expand, your breath becomes deeper, your mind becomes calmer, and one day you wake up and realize that you are no longer waiting for anything, not for their message, not for their explanation, not for their apology, not for their return. You realize your peace no longer depends on someone else's words. You gave yourself the completion that they could not give you. That is true closure. True closure is understanding that the chapter is over. True closure is accepting that life is pulling you forward. True closure is freeing yourself from a story that is no longer yours. True closure is giving yourself permission to continue living. True closure is healing not because someone apologized, but because you finally decided you deserve peace. You become free the moment you stop needing closure from the same place that hurt you. You become whole the moment you give closure to yourself. You become powerful the moment you realize the past no longer owns you. You become awakened the moment you choose your peace over your questions. 13. You stop hurting the moment. You stop trying to be who you were before the pain. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in their suffering is because they keep trying to return to the version of themselves that existed before everything changed. They keep reaching back toward the person they were before the heartbreak, before the betrayal, before the disappointment, before the loss, before life broke something inside them. You tell yourself, I want to feel like myself again, or I wish I could go back to who I used to be, or I want the old me back. But the painful truth is that the version of you that existed before the pain is gone, not lost, not wasted, but transformed. You cannot become who you were before because the pain you lived through reshaped you from the inside out. It changed your heart, your mind, your awareness, your boundaries, your desires, your values, your understanding of love, your understanding of yourself. Pain didn't destroy you, pain redefined you. The suffering you feel now is not because the pain is still happening. It's because you are resisting who you're becoming. The moment you stop trying to resurrect the past version of yourself, the healing begins. Pain forces you to grow into a new identity, but the ego resists this growth. Your ego wants familiarity, predictability, comfort. Pain forces you beyond all of that. Pain makes you confront things inside yourself that you avoided for years. Pain forces you to question everything you once believed. Pain tears down illusions you didn't know you were living inside. Pain makes you see yourself honestly for the first time. Your fears, your needs, your weaknesses, your patterns, your wounds. But when you try to cling to the old version of you, you fight against this transformation. You cling to old beliefs that no longer support your new path. You cling to old habits that no longer match your new awareness. You cling to old relationships that no longer nourish your growth. You cling to old expectations that no longer align with your emotional maturity. You cling to old coping mechanisms that once helped you survive, but now block your evolution. Pain is not asking you to return to your old self. Pain is asking you to become someone new. You don't heal by going back. You heal by going forward. The version of you that existed before the wound cannot carry you into your next chapter. That version of you did not have the strength you have now. That version of you did not have the clarity you have now. That version of you did not have the emotional awareness you have now. You think you want the old you back, but the truth is that old you was not equipped to handle the reality that pain revealed. You heal when you stop grieving who you used to be and start embracing who you are becoming. There is a moment in every healing journey where you realize that the old version of you was built on things that were temporary. Temporary relationships, temporary meanings, temporary fantasies, temporary illusions of safety. Pain shattered those illusions, and now you are left with the raw truth. You stand there feeling empty, confused, lost, and unsure because the identity that once defined you has dissolved. But this emptiness is not a tragedy. It is the space where your new self will grow. Pain breaks you open, but not to destroy you, to free you. Free you from what you believed you needed. Free you from people who were never aligned with your growth. Free you from expectations that were suffocating your soul. Free you from patterns that kept you small. Free you from versions of yourself that were built on survival rather than authenticity. The moment you stop resisting this inner transformation, the pain begins to soften. You stop seeing yourself as broken and begin seeing yourself as evolving. You stop trying to fit into your old life and begin building a new one. You stop trying to revive dead chapters and begin writing new ones. You stop trying to force things back into place and begin letting life rearrange itself according to your new truth. One of the most painful parts of healing is mourning your old self, the self who loved openly without caution, the self who trusted deeply without hesitation, the self who dreamed boldly without fear. But the truth is, that version of you wasn't wrong, they were simply unawakened. You don't lose that version forever. You carry their innocence into your new strength. You carry their hope into your new wisdom. You carry their love into your new boundaries. You carry their dreams into your new self-awareness. Healing is not about losing parts of yourself. Healing is about integrating them correctly. You heal when you understand that the old you and the new you are not enemies. They are chapters. They are stages of growth. They are different levels of consciousness. The old you survived. The new you will thrive. And this is where the transformation becomes powerful. The moment you stop trying to go backward, the future opens. The moment you stop trying to become who you used to be, you begin becoming who you were always meant to be. Pain didn't show up to ruin your life. Pain showed up to elevate your life. Pain came to push you into expansion. Pain came to break the shell of your old identity so your true self could emerge. Now, imagine what happens when you stop resisting that emergence. Imagine what happens when you stop fighting the new version of yourself. Imagine what happens when you stop grieving the past and start embracing the present. You start making decisions that honor who you are now, not who you once were. You start allowing yourself to grow without shame. You start building a life that aligns with your wisdom, not your wounds. You start loving yourself in ways the old you never understood. You stop hurting the moment you stop fighting your evolution. Your suffering is not caused by the pain, it is caused by your refusal to accept that the pain changed you. When you accept that you are not supposed to go back, the weight lifts, the confusion settles, the longing quiets, the internal war ends. You begin to feel peace where there was once turmoil. You begin to feel clarity where there was once chaos. You begin to feel strength where there was once weakness. You begin to feel yourself again, not the old you, but the real you. This is why spiritual traditions say, what you seek is seeking you. Your soul is always trying to guide you toward your highest self. Pain is one of the ways it pushes you there when you resist. Pain does not break you. Pain breaks the illusion of who you thought you were supposed to be. Pain strips away the layers that no longer belong to you. Pain reveals the truth that was buried under fear, attachment, and identity. And then, after enough reflection, enough surrender, enough honesty, enough quiet nights, enough inner work, something miraculous happens. You begin to feel gratitude for the pain, not because it was pleasant, not because it was fair, not because you deserved it, but because it liberated you. You begin to see that the pain didn't ruin your life. It redirected it. It didn't destroy you. It discovered you. It didn't weaken you. It refined you. It didn't end you. It rebirthed you. The moment you stop trying to revive your old self is the moment your new life begins. The moment you accept that you were changed is the moment you begin to rise. The moment you embrace who you are becoming is the moment you finally feel free. You stop hurting the moment you stop trying to be who you were before the pain, because who you were before the pain is gone, and who you are becoming is far more powerful. 14. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" your entire healing begins. There is a moment in every person's life where pain becomes overwhelming. You feel betrayed by life, abandoned by fate, punished by circumstances you didn't deserve. You sit there holding your broken heart, your shattered expectations, your collapsed dreams, and you look up at the sky asking, "Why me? Why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why do I keep suffering? Why does life keep testing me?" These questions rise naturally from deep emotional agony, but they create a prison around your mind. Because "why me?" is not a question that brings clarity. Why me is a question that feeds your suffering. Why me turns you into a victim of your story instead of the student of it. You stay stuck as long as you stare at life through the lens of "why me?" because that question assumes life has singled you out unfairly. It assumes that pain is a punishment. It assumes that you did something wrong. It assumes that the world is against you. But the truth is far more empowering. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. Pain is not a punishment. Pain is a teacher. Loss is not a curse. Loss is a redirection. Heartbreak is not the end. Heartbreak is a spiritual initiation into a deeper version of yourself. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" something shifts inside you so strongly that your whole healing process transforms. What is this teaching me? Acknowledges that your pain has purpose, your suffering has meaning, and your experiences are not random. It opens a door inside you that was locked behind resentment, fear, and confusion. Suddenly, instead of being crushed by life, you start to understand that life is shaping you. You begin to see that the situation that felt like a dead end was actually the start of a new direction. You begin to see that the person who left was not meant to stay because your soul was growing beyond their capacity. You begin to see that the heartbreak broke not your soul, but your illusions. You begin to understand that every painful moment carries a hidden lesson that your wisdom is waiting to uncover. But the mind resists this. The mind wants to cling to blame, cling to anger, cling to innocence, cling to the story that life is unfair. Because shifting to "what is this teaching me" means taking responsibility for your perspective. It means accepting that you are not powerless. It means acknowledging that healing needs participation, not passiveness. It means seeing that you have the power to turn suffering into transformation, and that level of empowerment is frightening for people who stayed in the comfort of victimhood for too long. You see, when something painful happens, your first instinct is always emotional shock, sadness, anger, rejection, confusion. That is natural. That is human. But suffering only becomes long-term when you refuse to move beyond the emotional reaction and into inner reflection. Pain is the event. Suffering is the resistance. Pain is the wound. Suffering is the story you tell yourself about the wound. Pain passes through you. Suffering stays because you hold on to it. The shift from "why me" to "what is this teaching me" is the doorway between pain and wisdom. And what is pain trying to teach you? Each experience has its own lesson. For some, pain teaches boundaries. You learn that love without boundaries is self-destruction. You learn that kindness without limits invites exploitation. You learn that silence encourages disrespect. Your pain teaches you where you gave too much, trusted too quickly, held on too long, ignored too many red flags. It teaches you that saying yes too often is not compassion. It is self-abandonment. For others, pain teaches you self-worth. You begin to see that you accepted treatment far below what your heart deserved. You realize you begged for love from someone who couldn't even love themselves. You stayed in places where your spirit didn't belong because you were afraid to be alone. Pain reveals the gaps in your self-esteem, your confidence, your ability to walk away from what is hurting your soul. Pain teaches you that worth is not received from others. It is recognized within yourself. Sometimes pain teaches you detachment. You learn that everything you cling to with fear ends up controlling you. You learn that attachment leads to suffering, not because love is wrong, but because you attach to illusions. Illusions of permanence, illusions of safety, illusions of stability. Through loss, you learn that nothing in life belongs to you except your inner growth, your integrity, your peace. Pain teaches you to love deeply but hold lightly. Pain teaches you to let life change without resisting its flow. Pain also teaches awareness. You begin to understand your emotional patterns, why you choose certain people, why you repeat certain cycles, why you ignore signs, why you chase validation, why you stay in situations that drain your energy. Your pain becomes a mirror showing you the hidden parts of yourself that you never addressed. It shows you the wounds from childhood, the beliefs you inherited, the fears you absorbed, the habits that kept you small. Pain brings all of this to the surface, not to hurt you, but to free you. Some pain teaches you patience. You learn that healing cannot be rushed. You learn that your heart moves at the speed of truth, not the speed of your expectations. You learn that time does not heal, your awareness does. Time gives you space to process, but understanding gives you relief. Pain teaches you to slow down, to breathe, to stop forcing yourself to get over it, and instead allow yourself to grow through it. And then some pain teaches you surrender. You learn that you cannot control everything. You learn that forcing outcomes destroys your peace. You learn that people leave even when you love them. You learn that dreams collapse even when you try your best. You learn that life will not follow your plans because your plans were too small for the person you are becoming. Pain teaches you to let life reshape you instead of resisting every change. When you shift to asking, "What is this teaching me?" you begin rewriting your whole emotional narrative. You stop waiting for someone else to fix the pain they caused. You stop looking outside yourself for answers. You stop depending on apologies, explanations, or closure from others. You stop tying your healing to someone else's actions, because when you are learning, you are not stuck. When you are learning, you are growing. When you are learning, you are reclaiming power. Your suffering transforms into awakening, and something beautiful happens when you truly begin to learn from your pain. The pain softens, the intensity reduces, the emotional charge weakens. The memories become lessons instead of knives. The ache becomes wisdom instead of torment. You start feeling grateful for the clarity that the experience brought you. You start feeling proud of the strength it created in you. You start realizing that without this pain, you would still be living as a smaller version of yourself. With time, the suffering dissolves completely, not because the pain disappeared, but because the meaning changed. And one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, you wake up with a different heart, a quieter heart, a wiser heart, a calmer heart. You begin to see that life was not against you. Life was shaping you. Life was preparing you. Life was guiding you. Life was teaching you how to rise into your highest self. You look back at the version of you who once screamed, "Why me?" And you finally understand why those experiences came. They came to awaken you. They came to strengthen you. They came to evolve you. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and instead ask, "What is this teaching me?" your healing begins. The moment you shift from victimhood to awareness, everything changes. The moment you become a student of your pain, your suffering ends. The moment you accept the lesson, the wound closes. And the moment you grow, life opens new doors that were invisible to the version of you who resisted change. This is the power of shifting your question. This is the birth of emotional freedom. This is the foundation of spiritual healing. This is the turning point of your whole life. Healing begins the moment you realize you don't need to be strong. You need to be honest with yourself. For so long, you have tried to be strong. You've held yourself together, even when everything inside you was falling apart. You kept smiling while silently drowning. You acted calm while your heart was screaming. You pretended to be okay because you thought breaking made you weak, that crying made you fragile, that admitting your pain made you a burden. You believed that healing required strength, discipline, control, and emotional toughness. But the truth is the opposite. Healing does not require strength. Healing requires honesty. Real healing begins the moment you stop trying to be strong and start allowing yourself to be real. Being strong became your shield. It helped you survive situations that would have destroyed someone else. It helped you get through heartbreaks that cut deeper than words. It helped you endure losses that shook your identity. It helped you hold responsibilities that were too heavy for your age, your heart, or your emotional capacity. But strength that is used to avoid feelings eventually becomes a prison. You become so good at pretending that you forget how to feel. You become so good at holding yourself together that the idea of falling apart terrifies you. You become so good at suppressing emotions that you start believing you don't have the right to feel them. But the truth is, you were never meant to be a machine. You were never meant to carry everything on your own. You were never meant to stay composed during every storm. You were never meant to be the unbreakable one all the time. You are human, and being human means feeling deeply, hurting fully, grieving honestly, and letting your heart process what your mind tries to avoid. Healing is not about being unshakable. Healing is about being true. You cannot heal what you keep pretending is not there. You cannot heal wounds you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot release emotions you hide inside your chest. You cannot repair your heart while denying its cracks. Pretending to be strong only delays the healing that honesty would have already started. The moment you stop forcing yourself to move on and instead allow yourself to say, "This hurts me more than I thought," healing starts. The moment you stop running from your emotions and begin sitting with them, healing starts. The moment you stop telling yourself, "I'm fine," and instead admit, "I'm not okay right now," healing starts. Honesty opens the door that strength keeps closed. You were taught that being vulnerable makes you weak, but vulnerability is the starting point of transformation. Vulnerability is clarity. Vulnerability is truth. Vulnerability is how the soul breathes. Every time you suppress your feelings, you suffocate your inner self. Every time you deny your truth, you silence your own healing. Every time you hide your pain, you abandon your heart. Healing requires the courage to stop abandoning yourself. Being honest with yourself means admitting that some chapters hurt more than you thought. It means accepting that some people broke your heart more than you admitted. It means acknowledging that you stayed in situations long after your soul tried to lead you out. It means facing the truth that you often gave love to people who didn't know how to receive it. It means recognizing that you accepted less because you believed you couldn't have more. This honesty is painful at first, but necessary, because the truth you avoid becomes the wound you cannot heal. There are emotions inside you that have waited years for your acknowledgement. There are tears you swallowed because you felt you didn't have time to cry. There is grief you numbed because you feared feeling it would break you. There are memories you avoid because they hold emotions you were not ready to face. All these unprocessed feelings sit inside your chest like a heavy stone, weighing down your heart, making every new experience feel harder than it really is. Healing happens the moment you give yourself permission to feel everything you avoided. Feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the confusion, feel the longing, feel the grief, feel the disappointment, feel the fear, feel the exhaustion, feel the truth. You cannot rise into a new version of yourself while carrying unspoken emotions behind you. Those emotions keep you tied to the past. Those emotions create emotional patterns that repeat. Those emotions become triggers, reactions, wounds, and behaviors you don't understand. The pain you avoid becomes the pain that controls you. The pain you feel becomes the pain that frees you. Being honest with yourself also means admitting that certain things triggered your insecurities, your fears, your old wounds. It means recognizing your emotional patterns without judging yourself for them. It means understanding that your reactions came from a wounded part of you, not a broken part of you. It means treating yourself with compassion instead of criticism. You have judged yourself harshly for things that needed gentleness. You criticized yourself for being emotional when you needed empathy. You pushed yourself to be strong when you needed softness. You called yourself weak for missing someone who mattered to you. You told yourself to move on before your heart was ready. You punished yourself for being human. Healing begins when you stop punishing yourself for hurting. You are not weak because you loved deeply. You are not weak because you cared intensely. You are not weak because you were loyal to someone who couldn't give the same energy. You are not weak because you feel things strongly. You are not weak because you struggled. You are human, and being human is courageous. The world tells you to toughen up. Your soul tells you to soften inward. The world tells you to stay strong. Your heart tells you to feel. The world tells you to hide your pain. Your healing tells you to express it. The world tells you to move on quickly. Your spirit tells you to move at your own pace. Strength is not the absence of feelings. True strength is the ability to feel without running away. True strength is choosing truth over avoidance. True strength is choosing honesty over performance. True strength is facing your emotions instead of burying them. The moment you stop forcing yourself to be strong, you begin to build real strength. The strength that grows from self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-truth. You begin to embrace the parts of yourself you ignored. You begin to comfort the parts of yourself you abandoned. You begin to treat yourself with kindness. You begin to speak to yourself gently. You begin to understand that healing is not about perfection. Healing is about openness. Healing requires you to hold yourself the way you held others, to comfort yourself the way you comforted others, to forgive yourself the way you forgave others, to believe in yourself the way you believed in others, to protect yourself the way you protected others. And then slowly everything begins to shift. Your chest becomes lighter. Your breath becomes deeper. Your thoughts become clearer. Your heart becomes softer. Your mind becomes calmer. Your soul becomes steadier. You begin to see the truth. You were never breaking. You were unfolding. You begin to see that your tears were not a sign of weakness, but a sign of release. You begin to see that admitting pain is not losing, it is rising. You begin to see that honesty doesn't hurt you, it heals you. You begin to see that the strength you forced was holding you back. You begin to see that the honesty you avoided was your doorway out. One day, after enough honesty, enough tears, enough truth, enough self-understanding, you wake up feeling something new, a quiet, steady peace. The kind that comes from finally being in alignment with yourself. The kind that comes from not hiding, not pretending, not resisting. The kind that comes from being real. The kind that comes from being whole. The kind that comes from finally choosing yourself. Healing begins the moment you realize you don't need to be strong. You just need to be honest, because honesty frees the heart. Honesty dissolves the resistance. Honesty softens the pain. Honesty invites transformation. Honesty brings peace. Honesty makes you whole. You don't heal by being strong. You heal by being true. If you look back at everything you have survived, everything you have endured, everything that broke you, stretched you, softened you, reshaped you, you'll notice something powerful. Life was never trying to destroy you. Life was trying to awaken you. Every lesson you walked through in this journey, the pain you avoided, the emotions you feared, the endings you resisted, the attachments you clung to, the versions of yourself you tried to revive, all of it was guiding you toward the same truth. Healing does not happen when you force your heart to let go, or when you pretend to be strong, or when you run from what hurts. Healing happens when you finally stop fighting your own soul. You were never broken, you were becoming. You were never lost, you were being redirected. You were never abandoned, you were being prepared. You were never punished, you were being shaped. Life was not pushing you down, it was pushing you inward, because the answers you've been searching for were never outside of you. They were never in the people who left. They were never in the closure you didn't receive. They were never in the explanations you hoped for. They were never in the apologies you waited for. Everything you thought someone else needed to give you has always lived inside you. Every lesson in this journey pointed you back to yourself, back to your truth, back to your intuition, back to your inner guidance, back to your soul's timing, back to your emotional honesty, back to your inner peace. This whole time, healing was not about learning how to let go. It was about learning how to stop resisting what your soul already released. Letting go is not something you force. Letting go is something that happens naturally the moment you surrender your attachment to the outcome. When you stop pushing, when you stop clinging, when you stop fighting, when you stop trying to rewrite a story that ended, your heart finally relaxes. The grip eases, the suffering softens, The mind quiets, and the truth becomes clear. What left your life was never meant to stay. What broke your heart was never meant to define you. What ended was never meant to be your home. You realize something important. The pain you feared was not your enemy. The pain was the message. The pain was the mirror. The pain was the teacher. The pain was the transition. The pain was the invitation to rise into a wiser, stronger, deeper version of yourself. A version that sees life with new eyes. A version that is no longer ruled by fear, by attachment, by old patterns, by emotional habits you carried from a wounded past. A version of you that understands peace was never on the other side of control. Peace was on the other side of acceptance, and acceptance is not passive. Acceptance is the highest form of courage. Acceptance is looking at life and saying, yes, this hurt me. Yes, I didn't want this. Yes, I wish it had happened differently, but I trust that what is unfolding now is wiser than what I wanted then. This is the shift that changes everything. This is the moment you stop fighting reality. This is the moment you stop arguing with life. This is the moment you stop forcing yourself to move on. This is the moment you stop returning to patterns that weaken your spirit. This is the moment you stop expecting the past to give you your future. This is the moment your soul steps forward and your suffering steps back. You realize that healing was never about forgetting. Healing was about remembering yourself, remembering your strength, remembering your worth, remembering your boundaries, remembering your power, remembering your direction, remembering that your life belongs to you, not to the pain that happened to you. And then something almost magical happens. Not dramatic, not loud, not sudden, but quiet and gentle, like dawn rising over a dark horizon. You wake up one morning and realize the pain is lighter. You breathe, and it doesn't hurt the way it used to. You remember the past, and it no longer controls you. You feel the ache, but it no longer defines your identity. You think about what happened, and instead of saying, "Why me?" you say, "Thank you for the lesson," because now you understand the purpose behind the pain. You understand that without the wound, you would have stayed asleep. Without the heartbreak, you would have settled. Without the loss, you would have remained small. Without the chaos, you would have never discovered your inner stillness. Healing doesn't erase your past. It transforms your relationship with it. You look back and see not the destruction, but the rebirth. Not the ending, but the awakening. Not the loss, but the liberation. Not the pain, but the portal. And in that moment, the moment you finally see the truth behind your journey, you realize something incredibly freeing. The old you did not die. The old you evolved. The old you gave birth to a new you, a wiser you, a calmer you, a more conscious you, a more courageous you, a you who no longer needs to beg for love, a you who no longer clings to what hurts, a you who no longer forces anything, a you who trusts the timing of your own soul, a you who knows that life is not meant to be controlled, it is meant to be embraced. And now, as you stand at the end of this journey, you understand the real meaning of healing. Healing is not about letting go. Healing is about letting life flow. Healing is not about becoming stronger. Healing is about becoming softer. Healing is not about forcing closure. Healing is about accepting truth. Healing is not about going back. Healing is about rising forward. Healing is not about returning to who you were. Healing is about becoming who you were always meant to be. You are no longer the person who began this journey. You are someone deeper, someone clearer, someone braver, someone more aligned with the truth of your soul. And that is the most beautiful transformation of all.